Nightreign is finally out. But it took me a while to get to it because I was busy at TwitchCon making inappropriate comments about miners. Anyways, for those of you who don't know, Elden Ring Nightreign is essentially Elden Ring, but they turned it into a roguelike and added like this Fortnite shrinking zone over time. And for the most part, it really works. But I think it's very clear the game isn't finished. Also, as with every FromSoft title so far, they have like this potential masterpiece, this like work of art. And suddenly, with some game mechanics, they just go,
so here we go, I'm about to make myself retarded.
Anyways, before we talk about what doesn't work, I want to talk about what the game does well, because it does have some really good ideas. Now, we all know the game is recycled. It's so recycled that the Mogwin spear is made out of paper. But when they recycle content, a lot of the time they will add something new to it. Most of the bosses you've seen before have been freshened up with a new move added to their kit. My personal favorite being the Falling Star Beast, which now can summon a bunch of pillars. And if you bait the beast to charge into the pillar, there'll be like this Looney Tunes-ass moment where it just charges into the pillar and gets staggered.
Which is funny.
Some of the weapons have also been updated, but that could be anything from a situational passive to the Rodon swords doing a suck on R1s. But it's nice. The new bosses are great. I don't have much to say about them. They're Kino, they're absolute cinema. Except arguably the last one, but we'll get back to that. Also, Augur is a good boss. It's different. It's not a super difficult Melania II difficult type boss. It's a change of pace, and I appreciated it. And the reason I bring it up is because the community of this game told me I was wrong for enjoying this boss, which is really annoying. What do you guys want, like another big guy with a sword? You want Artorias again? How about this? How about for once in your life you stop for a moment and smell the roses, you juvenile bricks? How about that? How about that? Anyways, another thing I like about Nightreign, and something that's gonna make it really hard to go back to regular Elden Ring, is that everything is faster. Eating crabs is faster. You're faster. Walking up to a bonfire and not having to manually light it. Thank you. The characters are really cool. Some of them are complete garbage, while others are really OP. But that's fine as long as they're fun. Which they are. So I like the concept, and holy f***. Basically, the game is a lot of fun. This is quality friend slop. The problem is... what do you do when you've defeated all the bosses? Because remember, this is also a roguelike. When you die, you start over. That's what roguelike means. The way I see it, there's two ways to get around this. Variety in gameplay and long-term goals. Roguelikes need both of these. And Nightreign kind of has one, which is the gameplay. And I say kind of because the game does have variety, you know, the locations on the map change, the bosses within those locations can change, the shifting earth, which is great, also happens sometimes. So it's there, but there should be more, right? Especially if you've already played Elden Ring. You've probably fought these bosses like 50 times already. But what about builds? Well, the thing is, when you select your character, that's your build. You pick Raider if you want to do a strength build, you pick Recluse if you want to do casting, and you pick Revenant if you want to not contribute to the team whatsoever. And then with the items and passives you pick, you basically spend the game trying to affirm the build you've already selected. Speaking of those runs, they also follow a very similar pattern. You know, you start out with a small camp, you might do some ruins, you might do a castle, an Everjail, and eventually a field boss or something like that. So there isn't that much variety in the structure either. Now, on their own, neither of these things are the end of the world. But when every aspect of like gameplay variety is limited, along with there not really being any endgame goals aside from gambling for relics, the game suddenly starts relying really hard on you having friends. Which, of course you do. Now, speaking of endgame goals, there really isn't much. There is something called remembrances, and they're basically character-specific quest lines that ask you to go somewhere and kill a certain enemy or just kill a certain boss. And in between those quests, you're experiencing what I imagine going senile is like, where everything gets kind of foggy and you're interacting with a bunch of characters that have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. And your reward for this is usually some relics that may or may not be useful, and a skin that can range anywhere from fuck all to more cleavage. And that's great, but why stop there? Why not add like character sheets like an Isaac, where it keeps track of what bosses you've done solo, what bosses you've done as a team, what Everdarks you've done, stuff like that. And then you can just tie certain cosmetics to that list. Like let's say you do every boss solo as Revenant, now you get the backflip emote. Or like in Dark Souls 2, where if you win enough in the arena, you get real, tangible aura. And there's just so much untapped potential here. You can get new skins, you can get new options for starting ornaments. Or imagine if Recluse got a new built-in gesture, which rips off all of her clothes and gets fucking naked. Something to actually work towards would be nice. Because as it is right now, all you do is just grind currency and buy the things you want. Which honestly is a kind of lazy and repetitive approach, and you don't really feel like you've earned it. Replayability just isn't quite where it should be. And that's my main issue with the game, but there's some more things I want to touch on before we wrap this up. Do you like doing cardio in video games? Well, I don't. Introducing Stakes of Marika. Remember Dark Souls 2? Remember this horse shit? Remember this complete... That's why Michael Zaki added Stakes of Marika to Elden Ring, so you wouldn't have to run across an active volcano to try the boss again. And in Nightreign, you gotta play the whole 45-minute game again to attempt the boss. And that was fine, until I met Night Aspect. Because Night Aspect does the funny thing where he raises his sword and attacks you sometime within 3 business days. And when he does, it happens so fast you can't react to it. He just omnimaps you. The point I'm trying to make is that he's just one of those bosses that you can't really learn the moveset intuitively in the moment. And one where you have to know the moveset beforehand through practicing the boss. And it's just my humble opinion that a 45-minute runback is a steep price to pay for practice. Thankfully though, it's really the only boss that is like this, so it's not the end of the world. Are you ready for an extreme hardcore gamer challenge? Forget going level 1. 99% of gamers can't do this. First, select Shifting Earth Crater. Go up to the demi-humans by the Spirit Stream, and then try targeting the boss. It's impossible. Trying to target the correct enemy in this game is like trying to go to bed in fear and hunger. Which is weird because there's been like, what, 7 Souls games and this has never been a problem. What has been a problem is the camera itself once you are locked onto the right thing. And if you haven't noticed what I'm talking about, try fighting the gaping dragon and targeting its tail. Notice how your character can attack backwards, while still keeping track of what's actually happening. So I guess there's a trade-off, but I really hope they fix targeting, like it's horrible. And then there's communication. Not communication between players, but between the game and you. Trying to decipher what this game is trying to tell you is like trying to speak to a local Japanese person. You inflict blood loss at raw HP. So what does that mean? Do you apply blood loss on enemies when your HP is low, like the Red Feather Talisman? Or is it maybe when the enemy's HP is low? It's actually neither. When you land a critical hit on an enemy, you get a weapon buff that applies blood loss. Like, I'm not kidding, that's what it does. Now, to be fair, that's the worst example in the game. But at the end of the day, if you really want to find out what something does in this game, you're pretty much always gonna have to go to a wiki or, God forbid, Reddit to find out what's actually happening. However, those get it wrong like half the time too. Anyways, you get the idea. There were a couple of more things I wanted to mention, like how there's no duos, or how the game really struggles with stutters right now, but duos are confirmed for later, and I'm sure they'll iron out the stuttering at some point. At the end of the day, the game is a lot of fun. If you liked Elden Ring, you're probably gonna like this too, for about 50 hours. Because as far as replayability is concerned, I'm just not that motivated to do one more 45-minute run, only to be rewarded with another large relic that grants you bewitching branches at start, and fucking FP restoration on flail attacks.